Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Running Tales podcast. We're here again to tell you some more fantastic stories from the world of running. We're part, as you know, of the Run, Try, Bike network, the Everyday Athlete podcast network. It's a fantastic place to catch up on loads of stories from the world of running. And just to give you a quick heads up before we go into today's episode, you can catch Chantal Eriksson on the network talking at 5 o'clock Pacific time, PST, on tomorrow, June 26th. She'll be joining Jason and Alm for the fireside chat, and you can catch that on all the usual Run, Try, Bike social media platforms. But anyway, on to today's chat, and I'm going to be joined by Emily Moore. Now, people who've listened to Running Tales in the past will remember when I spoke to Emily about her running career. We'll maybe touch on a little bit of that again today, and also there's my clock in the background, just on time, but also about her country to capital ultra run. But today we're going to talk to her about taking on one of the toughest foot races in the world, the Marathon des Sables. For those who don't know, that is a 6-day, 250-kilometre, that's 155-mile race through the heat of the Sahara Desert in Morocco. It is one of the hardest races in the world. So how do you do that race? Well, let's talk to Emily right now. Let's bring her forward. Let's have a chat with Emily and find out how you take on the MDS. Emily, hi, how are you doing?
Hi,
It's good to see you again. I want to start off by rewinding a little bit forward from before MDS and how you prepared for it, really, because that was quite a story in itself as well. First of all, doing capital to country out in Nepal, we spoke about that before, but one of the amazing things about that was that you power walked that entire race for, I think it was it 5 days of racing out there as well?
Yeah, 5 days.
Yeah, and you power walked all of that because you just wanted to get ready for MDS, where it's going to be so hot that you couldn't conceive that you'd be running.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, I just thought as soon as I knew it was going to be as hot as it was, I'd obviously seen stories. I thought I'm never going to be able to run this, all of it. So I wanted to mentally get ready for the walking side of things. And I think sometimes as ultra runners or as like marathon runners, we think if we walk, we failed. And I kind of didn't want that to be in my head. I just wanted to think that walking didn't matter if I was crawling on my hands and knees, I was still moving forward. So that's why I prepared for Nepal, was all walking.
And the other thing I think you did to get ready for MDS was you did some very specific heat training. I'm sure I saw you running in a sauna at one point.
Yes, I went to Wolverhampton University where they have a heat chamber, and I was there. I was running in there, and they were increasing the temperature, and it was about learning to how my body reacted and almost what it felt like at certain core temperatures. So when my body core temperature was at a certain point, what that felt like to me. So I had some idea, because there's a lot of sort of like, we talk about running, we talk about muscle memory, but also it's about knowing, because I've never run in that sort of heat before. So I didn't know how I would feel running. And, when you've got to a certain point when your body core temperature is at its max, how that would feel. I also slept on my bedroom floor for 3 months.
Because that's a really interesting point, isn't it? I mean, we talk about sometimes how hard it is to say prepare for even, but say a marathon or something like that. Those 26.2 miles are pretty hard, and everyone says, well, the training is the real thing that you have to get over. Once you get on the day, you'll just manage to do it. Was that the same with MDS, and just how was that like it on drugs, really?
Yeah, I suppose so. It was it was I'm going to say on drugs. I'm going to say it was on camaraderie. You do MDS on camaraderie. There's no other way. There's no other way for it, really. It's mental strength, and it doesn't matter how much training you put in. I don't think you're ever prepared, because so much can go wrong in the Sahara, whether that be, the heat affecting you, your stomach, your feet, back sores. But you do it with your mates. You make mates there. I mean, I didn't know my tent mates at all before I went, but my God, I mean, they're stuck with me for life now. So yeah, so I think that's all about how you prepare, but the preparation for it is just one part of it.
Yeah, and it is pretty crazy preparation as well. I just wanted one other thing I think you did was you did almost one of those races where you run or I think it was a training session where you sort of ran a ridiculous distance every 4 hours, and then you had a bit of a rest, and then had to run again for 4 hours or so. I can't remember, but tell us what that was all about.
4 miles every 4 hours for 48, and it howled with rain overnight, and it was great. But it's David Goggins, I think, started it, and told me about him,
Right.
and I knew a really good friend of mine, Paul, had done it a couple of years ago, and then he did it in training. And I thought, well, if he's done it, then it's probably a good idea, because he's quite good at training for this stuff, whereas I'm a little bit not winging. I don't wing it. I think I don't always have as much time as a lot of other people, so I just do what I can. And so I thought that sounded like a really good idea, to know what it was like to run totally exhausted and to have to keep getting up when you're tired and just running again. So yeah, so I did the 4 by 48. I did
because I
that.
think
Sorry.
I was going to say, I think you like to pretend that you're winging it sometimes. I remember you telling me when we spoke last time that, it'll be all right, it'll be fine. But actually, you were sneakily doing training all along.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I did do laps of my local reservoir. That was really boring. Just I didn't take any music or anything, and I ran with all my kit for MDS. But I had this front pack, and I borrowed it from Paul. And he'd obviously worn it for MDS, and the elastic on the top that holds the front bottle down was it was the saggiest piece of elastic. So this bottle just hit me in the face repeatedly. And I did 35 miles that day, and then 35 miles the next day, all with this bottle smacking me in the face. And I thought, if I could do that, I could do anything.
Yeah, if you can get through, 35 miles being punched by Lennox Lewis, then you'll be fine when it comes to the MDS.
Water bottle, just smash.
These are the strange things we have to face as runners, aren't they? And I would imagine that it was even stranger and even tougher when you eventually got to the desert. You've mentioned like your tent mates and so on, and you obviously didn't know anybody. What is it like in that moment when you're first getting there and you're running around in the desert, getting used to everything, perhaps acclimatizing, and you're trying to find a tent with some people who look relatively normal, who you've got to spend some time with?
It's slightly different now. So you pre-book your tent space, if you like. There's a random day when they release it and you can book in. And a guy I'd done Nepal with, his wife was doing it. So I'd got one other person, although I hadn't met her by that point. So we were going in, and this is really bad, isn't it? I'm going to let all the secrets out now. I wanted to go in a tent with mainly men because the first person back each day has to move the rug and clear the stones away from underneath the rug that you're going to sleep on. I figured if I went in a tent mainly with men, they'd definitely get back before me. Then they'd do all the clearing of the stones, and I'd drift in and it'd be okay. So when we were looking on that night, we found there was a couple of tents that had got like 4 guys in, or 6 guys in, and then there was a couple of tents with 4 guys in, and I was just like, well, you never know. And then we found 2 tents that had got 6 guys in each, and I was just like, they're perfect. And so then it was a toss up between tent 79 or 80, and we went for tent 80, and I'm really glad we did, because they're brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I loved them all. And then we met. So I started, that whole thing about starting to search for people online, and so we found each other sort of like via Facebook and things like that. And the only person we couldn't find was Archie. And we, even on the way out, we didn't know who he was. We got to the desert. We'd met up at the airport, from Gatwick, and we were like, has anybody seen Archie? And no one'd seen him. And then this young 24-year-old, absolutely taller than tall, young lad turns out to be Archie, and he's got the edge. He's got the edge where there's no room.
And you all sort of got on straight away, did you? And you know, life was good in camp.
Yeah, I would say instantly. Instantly, we all really bonded. So there's Simon. Simon, I'd kind of been chatting to on the Facebook group already, so he was in our tent. But yeah, we all. I don't know if that's normal, if that's a stand, you know, if that's standard across the board. I don't think it is. I think some tents get on better with others.
Yeah.
But we instantly got on. I'd say within about an hour, mainly because I sort of I was getting changed, and I have no airs or graces about this kind of thing. I'm going to be sharing a tent with these guys for 7-8 days, so I wasn't going to be going to get changed in the little cubicles that are my way. I just decided I was going to do it then, and I was on an inflatable mattress and stumbled, and poor old Alex saw everything that I own, and he was like, "Well, we're in now then." And that was it. I was broken. We were fully on board then, all of us. So, but yeah, just we all got on brilliantly, and it was. I think that was the running is one thing, but actually the stuff back at the tent, that's what really makes MDS. That's what makes it special. It's that time away from everything else, from social media, from phones, from work, absolutely everything. You're just there running or walking, eating, laying on your sleeping bag, talking about crisps.
Because that's really interesting, though, isn't it? Because we've been talking about MDS for a little while now, and we haven't mentioned the running at all yet, because it is so much more than simply a running event. It's full on an adventure and doing everything.
Yeah, and you're carrying all your food, and I was so lucky because I was raising money for a charity. I was raising money for our local domestic abuse charity, but also I was running for Walking with the Wounded. And so they had like a couple of other tents that were further up. So I had like this massive crew, really, of buddies, I suppose. And so you were walking along, and although you don't know everybody, and you're not necessarily walking with your tent mates or running with your tent mate, you meet other people that you're at the same pace with, for the whole thing.
Yeah. That's always cool, isn't it, when you meet those people? I've just been prompted as well to let our American friends and listeners know that when us two Brits over here are talking about crisps, we mean potato chips. Otherwise they'll be very confused, wondering what on earth these funny things crisps are that you're talking about in the middle of the desert.
Any food really, any food.
Yeah, just basically talking about food. And does that become, just going back to what you were saying, does that become almost two communities, the people in your tent and the people you end up running at the same pace at each day?
I don't know, because I suppose you see different people. You do see different people each day, but you chat. I mean, I'm quite a chatter. It's obvious, isn't it? I mean, every day we got back to the tent and I would tell them about somebody that I'd met that day, and their life story. I suppose you do get to know the same people that you're walking with. There was an amazing guy walking with he was granddad walking with his 16-year-old grandson. That amazed me. And then Paul Carney, who's the Army's most senior soldier, he was out there. Such a nice guy. And we were just, you just have fun. There was a guy walking with a wounded tank. I walked with him a fair bit. I could see he had a red hat, and so I could always spot his red hat. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of tracked him down each day. He would always, I just maintained the same pace throughout the whole thing. And I would sort of I'd know if I overtook it, I'd get to him, walk along with him for a little bit, and then I'd just leave him. Heartless.
I'm not slowing down for anybody.
But no, it's incredible fun.
And what was it actually like? Running in the desert. I'm sure myself included. There's plenty of people listening to this who just maybe we've run along a beach and once, and that was hard enough. I just can't imagine how tough it must be.
It's hot. It's hot, and it's not. So some days aren't as what you imagine them to be. It's a lot more sort of like rocky underfoot, and we went over some jebbles that were quite extreme. One of the best bits was going up over the top of this jebel, and then there was a rope on the other side, and you kind of lowered yourself down for a little bit, and then the rope ran out, and there was nothing else to do but just to run full pelt with all your kit on your back and a bottle strapped to your front down this sand. And that was one of the moments for me, is whooping like a child. And then some Italian guy taking out a Japanese runner to my side. They just bashed each other out. But yeah, it is tough. It is tough. And when you're going over the little jebbles, almost day 4, I think, was one of the toughest days for me, because it was just these constant waves of sand up and down, up and down. It was relentless, and the heat was just exhausting. But it's spectacular. It is spectacular there. And obviously we got to see the night sky on the long stage, which was unbelievable.
What are the views like then? Is it, you say spectacular, but I'm sort of thinking endless sand, but presumably a bit more than that.
It's endless sand, but it's not. I mean, it's where they filmed Star Wars, which I've never seen, but it's where they filmed Star Wars, and so I know. As another, yeah, it's spectacular. There's just the sand and the height of everything, and there's a funny, when it snows here, and there's that funny sound to everything. It's almost muffled, isn't it, when it snows in the UK? And there's a really odd, eerie sound. It's like that. It's very strange. The sound is very strange out there, but beautiful, really beautiful.
And then is it cold at night? Do you get
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah. Are you going from different extremes of hot and cold and so on?
Hello.
Hey, Emily, I can hear you. Can you hear me? We may have lost Emily. I can see her. We can hear her, but I don't know if she can hear us at the moment.
Hello.
Hi, Emily. Can you hear me? The joys of technical difficulties here on Running Tales today. This is what happens where you get a live chat. We've lost Emily somewhere in the middle of the Sahara Desert. She's enjoying the beautiful surroundings. I think she's back. I think she's back. Here she is.
Back.
Can you hear me okay now?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. No problem.
Yeah, I don't know where you lost me. In the desert somewhere.
Somewhere in the middle of the desert. I was just trying to find out whether after being really hot at night, whether you got really cold at hot in the day, whether you got really cold then at night.
I didn't. That's probably to do with my age. No. Everybody.
Saving the day.
I would say people had said it was really cold at night. Last year, the previous year, so 2023, I knew it wasn't cold at night. The first night, Simon, our guy from up north in our tent, he was really cold. At that point, we doubted whether he was northern or not. But he was cold the first night, as was Archie. But they were both on the edges of our tent. After that, I don't think anybody was cold at night. I lay on the top of my sleeping bag most nights, with the sand just blowing everywhere. In my hair, up my nose. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was that cold at night. It didn't get that cold at night for me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Right, some of the other things that we have to deal with on very long runs, and I imagine our times by 10 in the desert. Number one, hydration. How thirsty were you throughout it all?
I wasn't. I only once ran low on water, and they changed MDS the year, so you could put as much water as you wanted in your water bottles. You are still obviously limited to how much you can carry and how much you're realistically going to carry. So I know that previous years they've given people like 3 1.5 litre water bottles at each checkpoint. I physically couldn't have carried that, and I didn't carry that this time. I had 2 650 bottles on my front, and then I also had, which was one of the other things they had this year, which was to take a stock cube with you for salt. So I had then another bottle that had this stock cube. I had a beef oxo cube. So it was like having a beef consomme. So I had that. But every checkpoint, you then topped your bottles up, which it made sense. But I put less than what people were given last year.
Yeah.
And there was only once when I ran low on water.
Yeah. And actually that reminds me of something you mentioned to me previously about the amount of stuff you were carrying, because I think you had to be very careful about getting the weight of your rucksack back, because I think it's fair to say, should we say you're on the petite side?
Yes, I'm 5'4" and 52 kilos, so I'm not big in any way, shape, or form. I'm very, very small. So yeah, I was aware that whatever I carried, I would be carrying percentage of my body weight quite a lot. So I did a lot. It got to the point where I was choosing head torches because it was 1 or 2 grams lighter than another one. A couple of grams lighter to do was about, the disposable hotel slippers. People had said about taking, and I was so worried about my feet, and I knew that when we got back to camp I'd want to put my feet into something that was comfortable, and so I took a pair of slightly more substantial flip-flops, but without the toe pegs.
Yeah. So the bag made it through successfully, but number 2, I think we've lost Emily again temporarily there. Small bag on her shoulders as she walks across the desert now, but further along the trip, and hopefully she'll be coming back any second. I think it must be nighttime in the Sahara. It's very dark wherever Emily is right now. Can you hear me? The beauty of technology here.
Yes,
I can hear you.
I took some slightly substantial flip-flops that didn't have the toe pegs. That's my top tip for anybody that goes. Take sliders, because you don't want to put your feet over some toe peg on a flip.
Yeah, and that's number 2 really that I was going to come on to, and I think I'll combine it with 3. How did you get on with the joys of your feet getting blisters and whatever else, and with chafing in general?
Okay, so I have a confession to make here. My feet, I got 2, and I feel awful saying this, because my tent mates, particularly Alex, Alex's feet were in a mess from day one. They drilled his toenails on day one to release the blisters from underneath his toenails. I had 2, and I've never told them this. I had 2 tiny blisters on my little toes, and that's all I had.
So what is the secret?
I found this stuff. Again, my friend Paul had recommended it. It was called Tough Foot, and it was for dogs' pads and horses' hooves. And I sprayed my feet with it twice a day religiously since, I think I did it in preparation for Nepal as well. But I mean, I went on holiday with a girlfriend in the new year, and she said, this is the most disgusting smell I've ever smelt. So my feet they smelt horrendous from this stuff, but I sprayed my feet religiously with it, and I think that helped. I also taped my feet really well. I learned how to do that. Lots of different. I think I've got about 12 different types of tape upstairs in my bathroom that I'd practiced with, and then I used this stuff called benzoin tincture. So I just practiced well them, and then I smothered them in gurney goo. I do. 2 sizes too big, but I then put insoles from other trainers into them. So on the first couple of days, my feet weren't slipping about. I had extra insoles in, and then obviously when my feet got bigger, I took the extra insoles out.
Oh wow! Oh, that's quite a few good tricks there, folks. So we'll have to, anyone out going and doing a really long run, those are some really good things. You might have to put up with your feet smelling like a horse, but you will have less blisters, guaranteed by Emily Moore.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I've had really bad feet throughout my entire running career, and the only times I haven't were Nepal and then MDS. So both those times I took real care over my sock choice and my trainers and the taping. So I don't know. I don't know why those 2 times they didn't have any issues. I wore the same socks as well. That's really disgusting, isn't it?
I don't think there's any way. I'm guessing on a run like that, there's no way of avoiding the disgusting, is there?
Well, no, but I mean, people took spare socks, and I'd got to that point, and I wore them for the first 2 days, and they were the normal days, and then obviously day 3 was the long day, and I thought I'm going to after the long day, I'm going to do the long day, and then I'm going to change my socks, and then I got to the point where I just thought I don't want to tempt fate, and so I wore the same socks all the way through. That's disgusting, isn't it?
Do you still have those socks? Tell me they've been thrown away.
No, my children are convinced that at some point they're going to be framed on the wall. I've still got them unwashed in a bag, sealed in a bag. I don't know what I'm going to do. It's just one of those things. I don't want to wash them. I haven't washed my tops either. My long sleeve top that I wore, that's framed with on it, and on the when we finished, they gave us a packed lunch, and there was like a tin of tuna in tomato sauce, just like a little ring pull. And as I pulled the ring pull, the tuna just sprayed all up me, which it didn't matter. But then I was just like, oh, that's going to be framed forever now.
Well, I dread to think what is going to happen with those socks. We all here are not entirely sure how they're still holding up and not reduced to just tatters or ashes or something, but
they're doing amazingly well. I haven't looked at them. I've got a box. I've packed a box up of all my stuff, my MDS stuff, and my rucksack's in there, and everything else like that. The anti-venom pump that we didn't actually need or take with us in the end. The road book, because they give you when you get out there, when you first land and you've got the coach journey, they give you this road book to study so you can see what you're going to be doing. One of those brilliant moments is I was sat next to Mark on the coach, so he's one of my other tent mates, and I was just flicking through the road book, and I went, oh look, it's a heart shape, like that, and he just laughed at me because the map looked like a heart, and he went, don't be stupid, it's not a heart type thing. It was. They designed it to look like a heart. I had that moment when they said it's our heart-shaped run. I looked at him and thought, see?
That definitely should have put him back in his box very nicely there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and you asked about chafing as well, didn't you? Gurney goo.
I did, yes.
Gurney goo. Just liberally apply it. Have no shame. But the only thing I did get, I got sores on my back from my rucksack. So
right.
They sit on my hips, which I wasn't expecting because I'd worn the rucksack. I had trialed the rucksack so well. I don't know whether that was the heat, the salt, I won't know ever, but they were really bad. But fantastic medical teams when you do MDS. Um, Fantastic British nurses and doctors out there looking after us as well, and they took care of that for me.
And when you're doing an event like MDS, it's quite different from capital to country out in Nepal, which for those who don't know, you were one of 7 competitors. It was an inaugural race. It was, you know, without doing Go Beyond and Simon Down, who are absolutely fantastic. It's very new and very small, and MDS is very big and very massive and very well known and very commercial. I mean, how did you find the differences between the two? And did you find MDS too commercial at any point, or was that not really a thing once you were out there?
No, I don't think it is, and I don't think it is a thing. I think because, in a way, they are very much the same. Because capital to country, there was a small gang of us, and MDS, there was a small group of us. There was our 1080. You know, we kind of, I suppose, we jokingly called the rest losers. They weren't, because that we also got to know them as well. So, you know, we had Alex, who was one of the really, really fast guys. He was in a tent next to us, and there was Harry, who we sang happy birthday to. He was 76 on the first day. I think that we
Oh, Emily's disappeared again. Off with 76-year-old Harry on a quick expedition there, but she's back. She's back.
Yeah, back. And so we sang happy birthday to Harry too. Although you kind of did see other people during the day, your tent mates are really, it is that small kind of thing, you know, and I think that's what everybody takes from it. It's about connecting with 7 other people really well, you know, and I'll probably never connect with 7 other people quite like that ever again in my life, unless I do it again.
Is that likely?
I'd love to do it again. I absolutely loved, and I know this sounds strange, I loved every single minute of it.
Yeah.
There isn't a single moment, there wasn't a single moment out there when I didn't absolutely love it and think, other than having my kids, obviously, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. You know, you've got the night sky above the Sahara, you've got your tent mates, you've got an amazing, you know, backdrop to be doing this, and there's no distraction. There's nothing. It's just about. And the other thing I think that MDS is special for is that you go out there, and what you realize, and what MDS is really about, is it doesn't matter who you are back at home, what you've got back at home. When you're in the desert, wearing the same clothes, eating dehydrated food, and you're in exactly the same boat as everybody else, that's and it's about a human connection. It doesn't matter what you've got, everybody's the same. And I loved that, and I would do it. Yes, I would do it again in a heartbeat. And I've said to my kids, I mean, they're 9 and 8, that if they want to do it, I would definitely do it with them. My only reservation would be, would I have such a great tent mate? Would I have such great tent mates? Because I really did get on fabulously well with all of them. I loved them all. You know, and I laughingly said that they were stuck with me now forever, and they are.
Yeah. They're all going to have to do it again. You're going to have an MDS reunion and be back in 1080 again for part 2. But I know that this is quite a big thing for you, the sort of spiritual side of these long runs, because we had a similar conversation about capital to country, didn't we? And that was very much about sort of finding yourself again, because you'd been to Nepal when you were a teenager, I think, and that was sort of finding yourself out there again and finding that sort of spiritual side of things. Is that definitely a big part of running for you now?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's cheaper than therapy, isn't it? Although, you know, with the trainer addiction, it's not that much anymore. But yes, I think there's something about being just running, or whether that be running or cycling or swimming, whatever your sport is, there's something about just being there and not having to worry about anything else. When you're running, you're not thinking about anything else, or at least I'm not. You know, I'm enjoying what's going on. I'm enjoying, you know, if I see other people, I talk to them. I just enjoy. Yes, I suppose it is spiritual for me. You know, it's wonderful, and I think you go on these things and to enjoy them. And I train hard, and you know I say that I don't train. I do train. I train hard to enjoy the actual event, but I loved it, and I don't think it felt at all commercialized in any way, shape, or form. From the crews that looked after us to our tent mates to the other tents, you know, the medical team, it didn't feel massive. It felt small, and it felt quite intimate in a way. You know, even with all your other tent mates, and there was, you know, 840 or whatever it was of us, it still felt very intimate, you know. And the fact that you're shuffling backwards and forwards to the toilet in front of everybody.
Well, there's no place to hide, is there?
No, especially when the toilets, they have got like these Velcro doors, and when the wind picks up, sometimes the Velcro blows open, and then everybody that's standing there waiting is just, yeah, hiya.
Emily, when we're talking about your running and how important it is to you in your life, I think one of the most amazing things about your wider story is that you were told you weren't supposed to be running at all. You were
No,
barely supposed to be walking, were you? Because you suffered quite a severe injury when you were younger.
I did. I was told at 19 that I would never walk unaided again. Well, you know, and I certainly would never run. But who wants to be told that at 19? You know, that's just a red rag to a bull, isn't it? To a 19-year-old, you know, at that age, you're all just like, I'll show you. And I have. I mean, I still can't quite believe that I've gone from, you know, walking with elbow crutches to taking on MDS, but I have. Um, so yeah, it's just power of mind, isn't it? Power
Yeah.
of mind, and a ridiculous attitude of I can do it, you know. And what's the worst that can happen? I always sign up for things thinking, "Oh, it'll be all right, won't it?"
Yeah. Did you think it's the same thing that gets you the same thing that's in your head, in your will, if that's the right word, that gets you through these races, that got you through those moments of learning to walk and learning to run again?
Yes, yeah, it's the same thing. It's. I think it's in everybody's capacity to, whether it be thinking positive. People call it lots of different things, don't they? Whether they call it manifesting, whether they call it faith, whether they, you know, whatever it is people call it, is about an inner belief. It's about believing that you can, and I think if you believe you can, then, you know, you can do so much, you know. And, you know, I couldn't swim, and I, you know, I knew I wanted to swim Lake Windermere, and I wanted to do an Ironman, so I signed up for swimming lessons, and off I went. You know, I'd already signed up for the Ironman before I even booked the swimming lessons.
Does it surprise you that, because this is obviously such a part of you, and I know you said there that it's a part of everybody, but I don't know as it is a part of everybody. Do you think that, I'm not saying it's unique to you, but maybe it's unique to ultra runners, maybe it's unique to runners, maybe it's unique to certain people. But do you see other people and you sort of think sometimes, come on, you can do this, just
Yeah,
believe, because everyone can do it?
yeah, I do. I genuinely do. I'm a 46-year-old mum of two. I'm not an elite athlete in any way, shape, or form. I'm just a mum of two. You know, I'm nothing special. I think everybody can do it. And, you know, I know that because, you know, I used to cycle next to a guy at a gym. We used to do spinning together, called Owen. And we were hugely competitive with each other. Like, you know, we'd lean over and turn each other's bikes up and things like that. And I just whispered one day, there's a marathon in those legs. And I knew that if someone believes in you and you believe in yourself, then you can do it. And I
Yeah.
think sometimes that's what it takes. It's someone believing in you, you know, and helping you. And I think that's probably what we should all take from this. It's having because you don't do MDS on your own. There's a huge support network of people, and it is like, it's not just out there, not just the volunteers and the medics and everything else and your tent mates out there, but at home, the people that encourage you, that give you advice and help you with your kit and things like that. It's all part of the MDS, and not just MDS, but all running, from running your first marathon or running a 10K or even park run. Look at park run. Park run's about people just cheering, and just cheering you on.
Yeah, but I mean, that was exactly where I was going to go next. In that, what Emily was talking about there, she's off to do a quick park run, I think. But what she's talking about there is what we find all the time on throughout the running community. I think it's a very supportive community, and it will back each other all along the way, and try and make a difference to people, and help people to achieve those things that they haven't perhaps achieved or taken on in the past. And that is something that's really, really special about the running community as a whole, I feel. And that, I think, applies whether it's the Marathon des Sables or whether it's a park run. I don't know how much of that you caught, Emily.
No, I did. I said about, that was like a really deep moment, wasn't it, as well? For me, the fact that it doesn't matter whether it was 5K, 10K, half marathon, it's about people supporting you.
And really, what I was just saying there was that I think it is something that's quite special within the running community as a whole and in general.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, and I think in life, isn't it? In life, just in general, having someone that supports you and wants you to do as well as you can. That's the most important thing in life. Whatever you're choosing to do, it's having someone that wants to help you. There you go. That's very deep from me, isn't it?
It's very deep. It's very deep.
We'll go back to waxing stories now.
Well, hold on. You've just opened the door there, Emily. Right, we're in trouble now. Emily has mentioned the waxing stories, and we weren't sure whether to bring this up on the Running Tales podcast today or not. But now the door is open. We've segued out of the serious, and we are going to tell the stories of chafing. So, Emily, over to you. Tell me that story again about these two poor young lads who you went running with on I can't remember what the race was now, but
so I crewed after MDS. After I got back, I crewed for Jason and Paul doing Escape from the Dartmoor. So it was called the Prison Break Run. So they were escaping from Dartmoor prison, and while I was supporting them. This is not a chafing story about them before they start panicking. This is about, while they were running, there was 3 young lads, all in their 20s, also running, and one of them. So I pulled into a lay-by, and their crew were also supporting them. Were there, and we were sort of like passing hellos and how they're getting on and that sort of stuff. And he said one of them's got really bad chafing, right? And I went, oh, well, where? And he went, was between his legs. And I went, oh, well, what you need to do is put some gurney goo on, which is this like lubricant stuff. Anyway, it turns out it wasn't between his legs. It was either side of his butthole. Am I allowed to say that? I've said it now anyway.
It's out there.
Anyway, so we got to the next lay-by where I'd pulled in and they pulled in. And it turns out that he'd put Compeed, which is blister plasters, either side of his butthole and taped his bum cheeks, like almost put some tape. You know when you put KT tape on and it stretches, you basically use it to stretch, don't you? They've done that with this tape. And there was a moment where I said, oh, and we were all stood there looking at this lad's butthole thinking, I don't quite know how this is going to get any better. Anyway, so they then, thankfully I didn't have to apply anything, but one of his best mates that was crewing for him did. They had to put the gurney goo. Terribly sorry, everybody. There you go. There's a running story for you. So the moral of that story is wax before you run.
Did this poor lad manage to finish the race? No, yes.
Bad. One of them did really well and finished. one of them did the full, because it was 24 hours. It was see how far you could go from Dartmoor prison in 24 hours as the crow flies. So Jason, who I was crewing for, did an incredible. He did absolutely incredible. Did 100 and something miles. Honestly, it was brutally hilly as well. But yeah, no, these young lads. I think one of them did really well, finished, and then the other two dropped out. But I mean, look, they both did well over 12 hours. So that's it's incredible to run that far over those conditions. Was insane, and Paul I was crewing for as well. Just that it's unbelievably tough running, but Jason was something else. He got to, I think, 99 miles, and he was going up this really steep hill that mountain bike riders ride down because it's so hard. And he was just powering up, knowing that he'd got minutes left of his sort of, his 24 hours. So there you go. Chafing story, chafing and / blister plaster story. So don't put blister plasters over the side of your bum hole. It's not good.
No, we've had some great advice earlier on how to look after your feet, and now some equally great advice on what not to do when dealing with chafing. But I mean, that is part of it, isn't it? That sort of coming across. I mean, maybe not that exact situation, but dealing with all these strange things on these really long runs. That is part of doing it, and coming across. You don't know what's going to happen next to sort of knock you out your stride.
No, I mean, on for us, I suppose in MDS on the long day, Archie, bless him, was 24, gorgeous young man. He'd taken the minimum calories that you were supposed to take, but I mean, I'd taken more than that. But he'd taken a book. He'd done really well. He took a book with him to read. Didn't read it. But so on the long day, we were Archie, that's a young lad, me, and then a guy called Paul from our tent. We'd stuck together. The three of us stuck together, and we were feeding Archie, all our food and our calories, because he was starving. He was properly starving. I don't know how young man managed to squeeze so much peanut butter into his mouth without any moisture. He just hoovered it up. But yeah, so I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? You just keep doing stuff, isn't it? You do.
And you learn so much each. I mean, I haven't done that many really long runs, and certainly nothing like MDS. But I've done a couple of 50Ks, and then recently I did the Isle of Wight challenge, which is 100K over just a much harder terrain. The 50K flat round and round a park. Isle of Wight challenge was just tough. And it was just a different thing, a complete eye opener on how much you have to eat as you go around, on exactly what we spoke about before when you were saying about power walking, and when you were walking, you were catching up all these people who've been running ahead because they just completely flaked. And if I was to do a race of that distance again, I'd do it entirely differently again. And it's the experience is a big thing, isn't it, in the world of ultra running?
Yeah, and you have to find what suits you as well. I mean, God, I wish I hadn't found Marmite cashew nuts as early as I did. I might have gone out there slightly slimmer, but it's about finding what suits you, because what suits one person, people always ask, don't they, oh, what trainers do you wear? What running shorts do you wear?
Yeah.
It's what suits you. What suits one person isn't going to suit another, and I wish there was a one size fits all. I'd probably be, super fast, but I'm not. But I just, I know what suits me. People say, take, for something like MDS, take a variety of foods. I didn't. I took two main meals. I just alternated them,
right?
Because I knew it suited me. The beef oxo cube, the oxo cube, or the stock cubes they call them, that was a revelation to me, and that's something that I definitely will take from MDS. That I've always taken a load of salt tablets, when I've done triathlons or anything, and then they said they were part of the mandatory kit to take these stock cubes because of the salt content, and absolutely brilliant. I didn't have any stomach issues, and thank God, because that's, when I'd only taken 7 sheets of toilet paper per day. So that was brilliant, and things that you learn out there as well. I'd taken the old-fashioned, tin foil wrapped squares that were quite crumbly, so they dissolved really easily in water. But the newer style, almost compressed ones, they don't dissolve as quickly. I wouldn't take a stove if I did it again, because it's so goddamn hot. You just put your water in your dinner and leave it on the sand, and it's warm when you come back from the medical tent.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by the Oxo Cube thing, because I do, when it's when it's hotter over here in England, let alone in the desert, I dread to think what I'd be like. But on longer distances, I do start to cramp up, and salt tablets and electrolytes have kind of been the answer. But yeah, perhaps I need to get onto the Oxo Cube.
I mean, I did take electrolytes, and also one of the other things that we found, a lemon for cramps. If you get cramps, I don't quite know. I don't understand the science behind it. But if you were cramping at any of the aid stations, you just ask for a lemon. And I still don't know the science behind that, but apparently that works. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I did ask for a lemon at one point just to make my water taste a bit more interesting. But may have faked a cramp.
Pickle juice is supposed to be the other one, isn't it? I've never tried that, but they reckon
beetroot juice.
I think like gherkins or onions, or just generally pickle juice. Never had it. That's supposed to help with cramping. It sounds hideous, but perhaps anyone who's listening can tell us about their pickle juice experience and if that's worked for them.
It'd be quite good, wouldn't it? Maybe it's just to do with the same thing that the lemon is.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, the Oxo Cube really worked.
Oh, there we go. Jason is telling me that on his long runs, he mixes. This sounds truly disgusting. He mixes pickle juice and flat Coke. He's actually just said it tastes like shit, but it's glorious to get rid of the cramp.
That's disgusting. How could you even swallow that? I know what it is. I know what it is. I know why that works, because it's so disgusting. It takes your mind off the cramp. You're contemplating life choices, swallowing pickle juice and Coca-Cola mixed together.
Definitely. Well, we'll leave Jason to that, but let's talk about what is next for you, Emily. What have you got? Any other races coming up? Have you got anything huge, or is it just going to be a park run?
Never say just a park run. I hate park run, don't you? Oh my god, I have another story to tell you. when I on the last day, I will get back to it. On the last day, I was coming through the last aid station, and there was I think it was 7k to the end, and there was this British guy that was he was one of the volunteers who looked after us. James, his name was. He shouts, "Just over a park run to go." And
did he survive?
I may have really badly called him a bad name. Mainly because I just hate park run. Oh no, that's not right. I don't hate park run. I don't like running park run because I'm not fast. I just run at my pace. I don't have any fast speed. But what's next for me? I am guiding a visually impaired athlete through London Marathon in April. So that's going to be amazing.
Is that something you've done before?
I guided her through triathlon, and we've done Ride London together and Swim Serpentine together. So we've done the London Classics. This will be us going for the London Classics as a visually impaired athlete and guide. So I've got that bike ride, London, Edinburgh, London. So it's a one-stop race. So one stage. So just all through you've got to go through the checkpoints. And then I've looked at Arc of Attrition. That's in January time, and that's with 1080. So
is that the one where you go from London to Paris?
No, Arc of Attrition is a run. So it's one of those. I don't really understand the UTMB series thing. I'm not clued up enough to know about it. Apparently you have to collect stones. I'm assuming they're not physical stones on the run, but you collect stones or something. But it's a race. It's a 100-miler.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so a couple of the 1080 guys are doing it, and so I'm going to probably do that with them. So yeah, and then I've obviously looked at all the other stuff, dragon's back, spine, the winter spine, stuff like that, because I quite like pushing myself.
The spine is insane. So good luck with that. But I was going to say, have you done a 100 miler before? Because
No.
a lot of the ones that you've done are multi-day races, aren't they? So a
Yeah.
100 miler will be something new and different for you again.
Yeah. Again, I mean, what's the worst that could happen?
Well, do you think that will take a different type of training and a different type of running again, or will it be the same tried and trusted and see how it goes?
I tell you what, this is the genuinely honest truth. I'm so awful at these sorts of things that I don't even know really what I've signed up for. I can't say that with MDS because I did know. I'd watched a TV program, and it actually is interesting. I thought that I'd watched the rower do MDS, but it was years before when I'd seen a program. And so there's been another program. Was there some sort of naturalist or someone that did it? Was he? I can't remember.
Probably so many running documentaries.
So many running TV, but it was on TV. It was on normal TV. You know what I mean, like on the BBC or something like that. So I can't remember who it was that did it, but so I knew what MDS was about. So I don't have any. But this these races, I don't always know really what I've signed up for when I sign up for them. But it's fun, isn't it? You don't learn. What could go wrong?
Are you not worried that one day something might go wrong?
I wrote my will before I did MDS. That's as serious as it got, I think. Am I worried? No, not really, because at the end of the day, whatever you do, there's other people doing it, and people are always humans first, aren't they? Human before athlete.
Yeah.
So I say that I don't train, but I do. But I don't always know what I've signed up for when I sign up for it, and then I kind of panic a bit when I realise what I've signed up for. But I think you have to have something. I have to have something in a diary to keep aiming towards. And it's good to inspire my kids. And merchandise. I love a bit of merchandise.
So medals and inspiring the kids is the bottom line of this.
Yeah, and there's a lot of merchandise you can buy now. I mean, I can head to toe myself and them in it now, which is brilliant. They are fully decked out MDS children. They've got hats, t-shirts. I look like Joey from Friends.
Are you going to get the MDS tattoo?
I'm thinking about it. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. But the only problem is I can't quite work out where I want it, and also I want to have 1080 put on it because that for me is MDS. It's those guys. That's what made my experience so amazing. Ben and Paul and Mark, Archie, Simon, Alex, and Ilsa. They made MDS for me, and Harry, Tank.
And those people are really special because I know we had exactly that same conversation about the people you spent time with in Nepal.
Yes.
And I'm guessing, just to finish it off, what makes running special? So, question, is that the answer? Is it other people who you run with?
Yeah, it's connecting with other people. Yeah, it really is. I mean, I was out with Helen the other night in London from Nepal, and yeah, it's about human connection, isn't it? Connecting with people. Whether you're in Nepal or MDS, it's stripped back, isn't it? There's no, like I say, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. You could be you have nothing, and yet when you're running and you're there with people, you completely different backgrounds. There's none of us in our tent had backgrounds that were in any way, shape or form like each other. I mean, my gorgeous friend Alex from the tent, babes, and I loved that. I mean, I've got a photograph, and it's actually on my dressing table at home, and it's the tent all just laid you know, basically Ilza's got her buff on as a top, and then the rest of the lads are just laid there in their shorts with their fingers over their nipples, and it's just a brilliant photograph. And that's what it is about. You know, it's about connecting with people.
Lovely. Oh, well, Emily, that's a wonderful place for us to finish today's Running Tales chat. Thank you, everyone, for listening today. Make sure you do check out those other podcasts on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. Chantel Erickson coming up with Jason and Owen soon on the Fireside Chat, so keep an eye on that. 5:00 PST on June the 26th. And we shall catch you again for another Running Tales podcast soon.